Good morning, children. Now we will discuss the remaining part of the Harappan civilization, and we will read about the citadel. So what was the citadel that we will discuss? You can see that this is the layout plan of the citadel, and you can see that various structures are visible over here. This is Great Bath, this is the stupa area, it may be the religious center. Many other buildings are also visible over here. So this was the part of the Harappan town Mohenjo-daro, and this used to be the upper part of the town, and it is also known as the citadel. And it was, as from the contours, it seems to be on a raised platform where this part of the town used to be located, though it used to be smaller in size as compared to the lower town, but still it was the most important part of the town, because it is believed that this was the place where the ruler used to live. Now, what it includes? It includes warehouse, means granary of the kingdom. Apart from that, great bath, where the ritual bathing used to take place. Then some religious occasions, public gathering used to take place on the citadel. The great bath was a large rectangular tank. You can see that it's a rectangular tank in this way. We will further see in other visuals about the great bath. And this was used for the ritual bath, it is believed by the historians. You can see that this is the image of great bath. There are two kinds of staircases. One is in the north and another is in the south. So people used to enter in the great bath from both sides, from north as well as from the south. And it is believed that these two passages used to enter into the great bath, staircases were there to enter into the great bath, and they were separately used by the male as well as the female. And on all sides of the great bath there used to be the rooms and bathrooms. So there were two kinds of bathroom. One was this side and another was this side, and they were used separately by the men and the women, it is believed. And there were rooms also surrounding this great bath, and in one such room there is well, and it is believed that from this well the water used to be fetched and the great bath was filled up with the water. And also there is also a drainage which goes out of the great bath, and it is believed that the waste water of the great bath used to be sent outside and the fresh water was coming in the great bath from the well. So that was the system of great bath, and it is believed that this great bath was used for the ritual bath, because still in Indian society and there are rituals of the public bath, like Kumbh Mela is also an example of this. And during the time of Surya Grahan, the bath is also taken place in Brahm Sarovar, that is in Kurukshetra. So that kind of system was there. This is further layout plan of the great bath. You can see that this is great bath, this is one staircase, this is another staircase, and this is the main bath where the public bathing used to take place. Apart from that, there are certain rooms on the sides of the great bath, and in one such room there is well. You can see that here it is well, from where water used to send to the great bath. And these are the bathrooms, and bathrooms used to be separate for men as well as women. And you can see that this is the drain which is coming from the great bath. It means waste water was coming out of the bath through this drain. Now, so this is all about the citadel and the lower town. Now we will discuss Harappan civilization was a vast civilization, and a number of people used to live there. So all the people were equal, whether it was an egalitarian society or whether there used to be difference in the social status in the society. So here we will discuss about the social differences which was there in the society. So tracking social differences. First of all, what are the sources to know about the social differences? There are many things through which we can come to know about the social differences, like the material which was used by the people. Some of them was the luxurious as well as some of them was the utilitarian. So it is believed that the luxurious material was used by the people of Harappa only by those people who used to be quite rich, and other people used to have the utilitarian objects only. Like studying burials. This is the best indicator to know about the social status. the dead people in the Harappan civilization used to be buried. So how they were buried and what kind of excavation has come in front of us about their burial, that tell us about the social difference in the society. First of all, strategies to analyze the social and economic differences amongst people living within a particular culture include study of the burials. At burials in Harappan site, the dead were generally laid in the pits, but sometimes these pits used to be without the brick, but sometimes these pits were made up of the baked brick. So it is believed that those pits who were without the bricks, they were of the ordinary people, but those who were having the bricks in it, baked bricks in it, so we believe that these were the burials of the some extraordinary person or some special person. Some of the pits were lined by the bricks that I told you. Then you can see that in this way the people used to be buried in Harappan civilization. This is the skeleton of the buried person, and certain objects were also kept around near his head as well as his legs. So you can see that the pottery is visible. Apart from that, utensils are also visible, but in some pits some precious metals were also found. So this tells us about the social status of a person. If the pit is bricked or it is made by the baked brick, as well as if precious items are kept with the dead person, it means that person was having a special status in the society. It means he was a quite rich person, or he may be the ruling person. So that tells us about the social difference in the society, and it was prevailing in the Harappan civilization, because many pits have been found where precious objects were also found along with the dead people. Then what other items used to be found along with the dead? You can see that this is an image of a mirror, and this is the copper mirror, because lead was unknown to the people of the Harappan civilization. So generally the mirrors used to be made up of the metal, and this is a copper mirror because copper was known to the Harappan people. Apart from that, Harappan believed that burying precious things with the dead was not good. As a result, mainly the precious metals like the gold and silver is not found along with the dead people much in quantity. Next is studying artifacts. So a number of artifacts were used by the Harappan people. Some were the precious, whereas some used to be semi-precious, and some used to be cheap also. So what kind of artifacts were used by them? Generally, artifacts have been classified in the two categories. One is utilitarian and second is luxuries. So utilitarian objects are those objects which were used by the common man, and it is used by everybody in our life, like saddle quern, which I have shown you. That is also an utilitarian object. But there were some luxurious objects also, and generally luxuries are enjoyed by the rich people or who are having more income. So utilitarian artifact generally includes pottery, which is an essential item, needles, flash rubbers, which is used for bathing. Apart from that, certain other things which were used in daily life, like saddle quern that we have discussed. Luxurious items includes mainly the objects made up of the valuable material, and generally they were not found in the Harappan local area, rather they used to be brought from outside, like lapis lazuli. And sometimes the pots which were made up of the precious stones, and generally these used to be the perfume bottles which were also made up of the precious stones like faience. You can see that this is a pot which is made up of the faience. This is not an ordinary pottery. So it used to be a precious item, and it is known as the luxurious object. This is saddle quern. This is an utilitarian object. This is also utilitarian object which were used by the Harappan people. Now, so we have discussed about the artifacts, but where these artifacts used to be made, and how do we recognize the centers of the craft production? So there are certain indicators through which we come to know about that such and such place used to be the center of the craft production. So what were those indicators that we will discuss? First of all, raw material required for the craft production, and wherever the accumulation of raw material is found, we believe that this was brought to make the crafts. Secondly, mainly a variety of materials were used by the Harappan people, like the stones, like carnelian, that was red color stone, jasper, quartz, and metals like copper, bronze, and the gold, shell, terracotta, and burnt clay. So these were the raw materials which were used to making the crafts in the Harappan civilization. Now, what were the methods used by the Harappan people to make the crafts? Mainly the beads and certain other things were made through various ways. So there are many methods to make the beads. So what were those methods? First of all, they were made in different shapes and sizes, like cylindrical shape, square shape. It used to be the circular shape, and some were also decorated by painting. Some had designs which used to be etched over the beads. So they made bangles, ladles out of the shells also. Now special tools were required to make these craft work, and specialized drills have been found in Chahundado. So the equipment have been found in Chahundado. So we believe that Chahundado was the center of the craft production. And beads were also made in various ways, like they were carved out of the stone, they were made up of the terracotta or made up of the clay. Sometimes the two stones used to be joined together or cemented together through a pasting material. That was also another variety of making the beads. So beads were also polished, they were also grinded. As a result, there were many processes were involved in making the beads. So a number of equipments or tools were also used for making these beads. So here we will discuss about those tools, and wherever these tools used to be found, we believe that that may be the center of the craft production. Nageshwar and Balakot is considered to be specialized center for making the shell objects. Chahundado was the center of the craft production. It is believed that a number of bead making, shell cutting, metal working, steel making, and weight making was done in Chahundado, and Chahundado lies in the southern Pakistan. Now, how do we identify that Chahundado, Lothal that we have discussed, they were really the center of the craft production or not? So there are different arguments given in its favor, that how do we recognize the center of craft production, whether a center is the center of craft production or something else. So what are the indicators that we will discuss? So first of all, simply by evidence of tools. Wherever tools are found, raw material is accumulated, or unfinished objects, reject, and the waste materials are found, they are considered to be the center of craft production. Let me discuss. Like, first of all comes to the tools. If the tools are found on a particular place, so we cannot clearly say that it is the center of craft production, though it is an indicator. Why? Because tools can also be found in that shop which is selling the tools. So it may be a tool selling shop, not necessarily a craft producing center. Second is raw materials. Raw materials are also used for making the crafts. So a lot of raw material is found at one place. Generally we assume that this is the center of craft production, but it's not necessary. Sometimes raw materials were also sold by the shopkeepers. So it may be the shop which is selling the raw material. That can also not a valid evidence through which we can 100% say that that used to be the craft producing center. Then unfinished object. This is the best indicator. If an object is half finished, it means it could not be finished, and before that the person must have died or something else have happened. So that tells us about the center of craft production. Rejects. A lot of reject is left while making some artifact, like if we are engraving the stone. So a lot of waste is also found near it. So that also tells us about the craft production center. Waste material is also an indicator of craft producing center. So these are the best indicators which tell us about that so and so center used to be the center of craft production. One is unfinished object, second is reject, and third is waste material. You can see that hordes of these crafts have been recovered from various sites. This is one site. You can see that you can find here pottery which has been found in large quantity. This is another site. This is also many utensils also obtained from various sites. So in this way we have recovered a number of crafts from the Harappan civilization. Then the raw material which was required for making the crafts. Some was locally available, whereas a lot of material used to be brought from outside. So how they used to procure the raw material, that we will discuss here. You can see that this is a terracotta model of bullock cart. So that may be one mode of transportation through which the raw material must have been brought to the center of craft production, because wherever the craft used to be produced, not necessarily all the raw material was available at that place, so it has to be brought from outside. So how that was brought from outside, that we will discuss. The Hadappans procured material for craft production in various ways. First is two methods of the procuring material for the craft production where we will discuss. First is they established the settlement near the source of the raw material like Nageshwar, Balakot and Sortughai. Nageshwar and Balakot used to be the collection center of the sea shells from which bangles and some other crafts used to be made. And Sortughai, which is in Afghanistan, it used to be a center of lapis lazuli. So lapis lazuli was brought from Sortughai. So that was also inhabited by the Hadappan people, and regular supply of these raw material used to be supplied to the center of craft production. So some people were engaged in the trade also. They might have sent expedition. Some raw material used to be far away from the center of craft production, and not a single person can bring all the raw material, so there used to be expedition. People started joint expedition to bring the raw material in bulk from that area, like the gold. Gold used to be brought from the Kolar, and Kolar is in South India, that is in Karnataka. So one person cannot bring the gold from the mine of Kolar. As a result, there used to be the joint effort by many people together. They used to go to the Kolar and they used to bring the gold. So that was an expedition. So such kind of precious metal used to be brought through these expeditions. So that was also a way to procure the raw material. Now Sortughai, Balakot and all these we have already discussed. Expedition to the Khetri region. Khetri region was famous for what? Copper. And copper was an important metal at that time, so it was also used as the source of the copper, and raw material was brought from the Khetri mines. From South India, communication and local communities were also used for bringing the raw material to the North India in the craft production centers. So these are the various ways through which they used to procure the raw material from the local sources as well as from other parts of Indian subcontinent. Now there was something also which was brought from outside. So here in the next slide we will discuss about the external link of the Hadappan people to the contemporary civilizations. So contact with the distant land and trade relation with the world. So there were many civilizations contemporary to the Hadappan civilization, and these are the civilization of Magan, civilization of Dilmun, civilization of Mesopotamia. They were the contemporary civilization. So here we will try to find out whether the contacts of the Hadappan were also there with these civilizations. So archaeologists suggest that the Hadappans maintained long distance trade also. The main source of long distance contact includes seals, weights, dyes and beads. Hadappans probably had trade contact with the Oman Peninsula, and there was a civilization in the Oman from where the things were obtained by the Hadappan people. Mainly the copper used to be brought from there. Chemical analysis have shown that both the Omani and Hadappan artifacts have traces of nickel in the copper. So the copper was the main metal which was used by the Hadappan people. So if we analyze the artifacts of the Hadappan people, we found that the copper is impure and it is having the traces of nickel in it. And the same sort of nickel traces have been obtained from other contemporary civilization in Oman as well as in Mesopotamia. So we believe that the source of the copper for this civilization was the Oman. So it is a proof that Hadappan people were also having a contact with the Oman, because it was a nearby civilization. Just crossing the Arabian Sea, they could reach easily to the Oman. So another thing is that this black jar, it is black coated jar, and this script is the Hadappan script. So it is also an indicator that it is manufactured from the Harappa, and it has been obtained in the Mesopotamia. So how it reached to the Mesopotamia? It tells us the story that there must be trade between the Mesopotamians and the Harappan. That's why this jar was sent there. And as the shape of this jar tells us that it used to be the jar for the liquid. So liquid must be transported through this jar from Harappa to the Mesopotamia. Now what could be the liquid? It may be the edible oil, mustard oil, or something else that could be sold from the Harappa to Mesopotamia. So they used to bring something from Mesopotamia and they used to export something from Harappa to Mesopotamia. So import and export used to be there. There are similarities between certain other type of objects found at this site. A Harappan jar that we have discussed coated with the thick layer. Why this thick layer is coated on this jar? So that it can avoid the percolation, it can avoid the leakage of the liquid which it contains. It has been found from the Omani sites. Mesopotamian text also refers to a contact with the region named Dilmun, probably the island of the Bahrain, that was also a contemporary civilization. Magan, that was also a contemporary civilization, and Meluhha. So Harappa is named as the Meluhha in the Mesopotamian text because we have recovered a number of clay tablets from Mesopotamia which tell us about the Meluhha civilization, and we believe that Meluhha was the name of Harappan civilization. So how they came to know about the Harappan civilization? It means there was contact with the Harappan people. So there were external trades also. So this is the map which tells us about the Harappa and contemporary civilization. You can see that this is the Harappan civilization, and at that time it was known as the Meluhha. So it was a vast civilization in India. Just close to the Harappan, you can see that this is the civilization of Magan, which is an Omani civilization. This is a part of Oman, and copper used to be bring in Harappa from here. Then this is another civilization. This is the civilization of Turan, which is in Central Asia. And this is the civilization of Mesopotamia, which we have discussed last year. So there was also a contact with the Harappan from Mesopotamia. And this is Dilmun, the civilization of Bahrain, which is in Arabian Peninsula. So there was also a contact with the Harappan Mesopotamia. So these old cultures were interconnected with each other. Now how the contact was there? What are other proofs? Most probably through the sea route it is most convenient to reach here. So whether they were the navigator or not, and do we have the proof that they were a skillful navigator also, they were boat builder also, because without boat, without ship, it cannot be reached over here. So what proof we have got, that we will discuss. You can see that this is a seal, and this is Harappan seal, and here it is a boat. So a boat has been engraved on the Harappan seal. It is an indicator that the Harappan people knew the technology to build the boat, and these boats were used for the trade also. This is Mesopotamian seal. You can see that it was cylindrical in nature, and an image used to be painted when it used to be rolled over a clay, wet clay, and the image which comes from this seal is of a bull. So this is a humped bull. So this humped bull was not found in Mesopotamia, rather it was found in Harappa. It means this motif has been borrowed by the Mesopotamians from the Harappan civilization. Apart from that, the scripts which is also written over here, that also resembles with the Harappan civilization, and it is a proof that there was a relation between the Mesopotamians and the Harappans. Then comes, this is a coin. This has been found from Bahrain. This is a Persian seal. It also carries the Harappan motif, the script of Harappan, the animal of Harappans. Unicorn kind of animal is also engraved on this seal, which is obtained from the Persian Gulf. So there is a similarity between the artifacts of various civilizations with the Harappa. As a result, we believe that there used to be the distant contact. So something which used to be abundant in Harappa, that used to be sold to the Mesopotamians, like wood used to be good in the Harappa. and that wood was required by the Mesopotamians to make bullock cart, because the date palm wood in the Mesopotamia was not of that quality. As a result, they used to import the wood from Harappa, and they also used to deliver something in lieu of that wood to Harappan people.